It should read topic number 3. Says that climate denial will get us killed. This came with a link. Where's Real Black Gentleman tonight? This takes us to the first of 2 attachments. This video is titled Martinique, Rising Seas and Disappearing Villages. Let's watch it, and then we'll go on to the second prompt.
On avait des échoppes. Les échoppes, c'était les bars où les gens pouvaient consommer. Voilà. Alors voilà les maisons. Toutes ces maisons-là, elles sont abîmées. Peut-être la prochaine poule, eh bien, ces gens-là seront obligés de laisser leur maison, quoi. Ouais, ouais.
Ce qu'il faut retenir, c'est qu'à horizon 2090-2100, la Martinique devrait perdre 5% de son territoire par rapport donc, au seul phénomène donc, de l'élévation du niveau de la mer, avec l'apparition également d'ondes de tempête qui va exacerber effectivement donc, la force de pénétration de la mer donc, à l'intérieur des terres.
Là, c'est un village complètement aménagé sur la frange littorale. On va dire donc jusqu'à à peu près 100 mètres en mer, donc il y avait des maisons, il y avait des commerces. Il s'agit d'héberger à peu près une centaine de familles, 60 à 100 familles, ce qui représente en moyenne, à peu près, on va dire 300 personnes à peu près.
Okay, so let's go to the next attachment. This one is titled, How is Climate Change Affecting the Pacific? It's a 7.5-minute video. We'll watch it, then we'll discuss it.
COVID-19 is changing the world we are living in today, but we must not forget other pressing issues facing our planet. Though economies have slowed, the heating of our planet has not. In the Pacific, climate change hasn't gone away, and the serious health risks climate change poses persist. In the Solomon Islands, malnutrition due to food insecurity caused by rising sea levels is an issue close to volunteer dietitian Fiorenzo Tonkin's heart.
Climate change is affecting the local produce. If you're here during cyclone season, you'll know what I mean. Once there's a flood, produce will be low, the supply will be low, and then prices will go up as well. I talk with patients, and then I tell them this is what you should eat. And then one of the things they always tell us is that you're telling us this, but from the kitchen, what you're bringing to us, it's not what you said we're supposed to eat. Whatever is available here, that's what we give them.
Yeah, so this is the market. You get this cabbage for like $10, $5, but you can get something from the shop, like noodles, for just $2.50, and you can feed like a lot of people with that. So that explains a lot why people tend to go for cheaper products that are sold in the shops that aren't even healthy.
I believe that if every patient who have NCDs right now, they had been eating the right type of diet, I don't think they would be here in the hospital. I want the bosses up there, all of them, government policymakers, to try and think of something that could help us out here. Once they do something, we can also do something as well. Yeah.
In KWAZ, waterborne diseases as a result of extreme weather events mean that environmental health officers like Teresa Tay have to closely monitor the quality of water sources, checking for contaminants like E. coli and coliform.
The effects of climate change that I know, lack of fresh water or clean water. I know that the water is the most serious thing because most of the outbreaks occurs is related with the water. Most of the time when the flooding comes, there's an outbreak occurs in the year. So now they never use the well water for drinking. They just only use the water from the rain. If there's no rain,
then we need to.
water. And from the rainwater, total number of E. coli, 13.4.
Water is really our desperate need, and water in our village here, it's not safe. We need to be careful, especially with the children, the small ones.
I am so worried. If they use polluted water, they have more chance to get disease. I request the government of other countries if they can limit their production. I think it's another way to minimize the impacts of climate change.
In the Marshall Islands, we have seen an increased transmission of vector-borne diseases in areas of flooding as a result of more breeding sites for mosquitoes and closer proximity of animals and humans due to less and less land. Environmental Health Officer Bobson Solomon is trying to control the expanding mosquito populations.
Our planet is changing. I can see it with my own eyes. Growing up in the Marshall Island, I never seen water rising up to this, in a normal days. It's just weird, it's scary. It's scary for the future of our young generation. Maybe there will be no Marshall Island. Who knows where they're gonna go if they don't have no homes. That'll be sad. We spray all over the island when we have outbreak. We go to the school, churches, all over the island. We had chikungunya. It wasn't as bad as the thing. We're doing mosquito control. When we go out there, we collect all the mosquitoes, bring them back to the hospital. We ID the mosquito, check what kind of species are they, make sure these mosquitoes don't carry the virus like Zika virus, dengue fever.
Health is affected by climate change in multiple ways. For example, the increased number of this extreme weather really definitely affect people's health. They're injured and sometimes even die. We've been observing those kind of impact, particularly in the Pacific Island countries. And WHO take it very, very seriously.
Witnessing these health impacts increase in severity, many Pacific Islanders are already taking solution-focused action. In the Cook Islands, people like Celine Dyer are reconnecting young people to the foods of their ancestors, healthy, indigenous foods found and cultivated in the mountain forests, improving diets and strengthening the community's capacity to withstand climate shocks.
So I'm going to get you and Kristen to go and plant some taro.
This is something good to learn. It's good for people that want to reconnect with their roots.
Because there's like a big disconnect from like the generations before us and then my generation. I was never taught this kind of stuff growing up, although I grew up here. We were just so reliant on imported goods, going to the supermarket for food.
Health is affected by climate change by many different ways. The truth is that they're often overlooked. We have to advocate for this mitigation. If those actions addressing the climate change organized in the right way, there will be a significant benefit also to the health. And I really wanted all the leaders around the world to take this issue very seriously. And I hope there will be a collaborations between different sectors, then we can address this issue.
There is no time to delay for the world and for the Western Pacific region. Tackling the health impacts of climate change and environmental threats is everyone's business. No one sector can do this alone. All sectors can make decisions and take action to protect health, even if this isn't their primary intention. These are called health co-benefits, and they are critical for putting the world on a sustainable path. We need to accelerate efforts to protect nature, invest in water and sanitation, promote healthy food systems, transition to renewable energy, and build livable cities. We must build back greener.
All right. Should be sub number 3. That climate denial will get us killed. Let me start with Kofi this time. Kofi, what say it is?
I find this very interesting. This is not a conversation that a lot of us, I see a lot of people have, especially Black people, and so I really appreciate it. Maybe because it affects us more because we are on islands, and so we could see the changes, right? So first of all, put my Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill the Science Guy hat on. I'm a little bit of a science head, so this is something that's a little bit near and dear to my heart. So I think the whole denial of climate change is that people don't know what it is. So you have like the Republicans who's beating me against saying Donald Trump saying it's a hoax, it's a scam, and people like that are usually like flat earthers and things like that. And what I find a lot of people do, they try to say that climate change isn't real by saying, "Oh, look at the weather. How is it getting warmer?" I forgot. I think it was in the Chambers of Commerce or somewhere. I don't know if Black Steel or Oni probably remembered it. It was some senator saying like, "Oh, it's not real. Look at this," and he brought like a snowball into the chambers, saying like, "It's not real." And I'm pretty sure he was probably being paid by the fossil fuel company. You have to understand weather. What he's talking about is weather. When we talk about climate change, we're talking about changes that's happening to the climate that's unnatural. So we know that there have been several ice ages in the past, right? And ice ages that usually comes gradually. Is not as it doesn't happen rapidly like it is right now. So that's why scientists are looking like, hey, look, wow. Are we contributing to it? And science is observation in the real natural world. So, and a reason why, they're losing beachfront, they're using a lot of land because the polar ice caps are melting. So when the polar ice caps are melting, you have a lot of on polar ice caps, you have permafrost, you have sheets of ice that hasn't been that hasn't melted since 10,000 years ago, which was the last ice age, right? It hasn't happened that long. These sheets of ice in Antarctica, they're just going. And what adds to it more, you have like permafrost and you have like methane. Methane is a greenhouse gas, right? And that releases it more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, which once again goes into the atmosphere, right? And so basically what causes a greenhouse effect, you have certain gases that the sun rays that goes through the atmosphere, that comes through the atmosphere, it doesn't just reflect back into space or it gets absorbed in the ocean's water. What happens is that those gases absorbs the heat from the sun, right? And it just stays in the atmosphere, so it heats up the globe entirely. So the polar caps being where all of Earth's stored water is in the form of ice is there. So that warms up, and then all of the temperatures rises. So the polar ice caps melt, and you have currents so you have currents. Oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart right now. You have currents ocean currents. You have cool air. I forgot the name of one of the currents, the one that goes in the Caribbean. Oh man, in Caribbean, Africa. So you have heat being transferred from the polar
Gulf
ice
Stream,
cap.
I think it was
Gulf
talking
Stream.
about, Kofi. The Gulf
Yes.
Stream.
Yes, thank you, Black Steel. So you have the Gulf Stream, that goes and it transfers heat. That's how Earth regulates its heat and it regulates its climate. So when you have a greenhouse effect that goes in, you kind of interrupt that, right? So for those of you that may not be too a little bit sciencey, is kind of thing that I like. I'm not going to try to get too deep into it, but people that are climate deniers, they can't really debunk it on a scientific level. And one thing that I hate when people say this on you in these spaces of when you talk to black people and they say this phrase that really pisses me off. Oh, white man science. Moment someone says that, they don't know what science is. Because what science is basically the understanding and using the tools of observing the natural world of how it is. If you're saying my science is garbage, the way for you to prove that my science is garbage is by taking the science that I have acquired and you replicating it and finding falsehoods within the experiment. It's called peer review. So when you have these people that say certain sciences and climate change is fake, you have to ask, okay, what peer review, what scientists have you have together? What scientific data do you have to say that this thing is a hoax? They won't be able to do that. So science, I mean, the Earth is going to be fine. The Earth has gone through global warming, global heating, ice ages where there's meteor catastrophes. There've been several dozens, thousands and thousands of extinctions of species going extinct almost every year. And guess what? The Earth bounced back and the Earth is going to be fine. So if we don't take care of the Earth is not going to take care of us. So when people are saying, hey, look, we're fighting climate change, it's not about how it's going to affect me. It's about my children, my grandchildren, and the future of our children. It's basically talking about the future of the human species and other species as well that we need to rely upon. So pretty much without getting more sciencey, I'll just leave it at that.
I appreciate that breakdown, Kofi, for those who might not have been aware of it. Only what say you to it?
Oh, okay, yeah. So apparently, I guess it was 2012. I wrote this article. I want to revisit some of the articles I used to write, but I think at that point in time, I might have been getting some commie literature, and I think this was actually a pretty interesting paper. So I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I want to quote one of the things that really stood out to me 10 years ago, and this is one of the quotes right here. It says, Thomas Schelling, a recipient of the Bank of Sweden's Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences and one of Lomborg's 8 experts in the Copenhagen Consensus, is known for arguing that since the effects of climate change will fall disproportionately on the poorer nations of the global south, it is questionable how much in the way of resources the rich nations of the global north should devote to the mitigation of climate trends. Here, one can't help but be reminded of the Hudson Institute planners who, in the process of proposing a major dam on the Amazon in the early 1970s, contended in effect, as one critic put it at the time, that if the flooding drowns a few tribes who were not evacuated because they were supposed to be on higher grounds, or wipes out a few forest species, who cares? Similarly, while chief economist of the World Bank, Lawrence Summer, now Obama's top economic advisor, wrote on internal World Bank memo in which he stated, the economic logic behind dumping a load of toxic waste in the lowest wage country is impeccable, and we should face up to that. He justified this by arguing the measurement of the cost of health-impairing pollution depends on the foregone earnings from increased morbidity and mortality. From this point of view, a given amount of health-impairing pollution should be done in the country with the lowest cost, which will be the country of the lowest wages, right? Basically, if you read through the article, they know that climate change is real, right? And later on in the article, I'm just going to read one sentence from it. But basically, they're talking about the ExxonMobil funded think tank by Powell, as the Chicago-based Heartland Institute, and how they were distributing literature, denialist literature, and one of the highlights I have is that the largest single recipient are Black churches, over 25,000 copies, right? And of course, there's colleges and so on and so forth. And so I'll just repeat the name of the thing: Heartland Institute. But it says that they raised $676,000 from ExxonMobil between 1996 and 2006. But the idea is that, and the booklet is called The Skeptic's Handbook. But anyway, so the idea is that they know that climate change is real. The only thing that they are not grasping is, why should the global north pay if really the global south will suffer? And of course, for us, we're thinking, well, the global north is the one causing it, right? So they should pay. But that's not how white people think. White people let you know how they think. They say, if it profits us, that's good. And if it harms people who are not us, that's also good. So for the West, global warming or climate change is a net positive. Elsewhere in this article, they're saying some of the rich people are thinking, yes, it may affect the global north, but in 100 years, or in 50 years. And when you or I hear, oh yeah, there's danger coming in 50 years, we think we got to mitigate that. These white people are not thinking, oh, in 50 years, I got to mitigate. They're Biden's age. They are Nancy Pelosi's age. They don't care about 50 years from now. You understand? They don't plan on being here 50 years from now, 100 years from now. When you talk about the incident in Florida, right? Which, again, I shouldn't have, made light about it, but, people in Florida are suffering, where Black Steel is. I feel bad about that. But again, wealthy people don't give a shit. Because if they know a hurricane is coming to Florida, they're just going to leave and go to their house in Michigan. They're just going to leave and go to so on and so forth. And eventually they're just going to leave and go to Mars. They do not concern themselves. Like, it's not that, again, they are financing climate denial because they make a lot of good money off of it. And because they do not want to assume any responsibility, because it is going to harm Black people and African people. The issue is not that white people deny climate change. The issue is that Black people deny climate change, right? Because we see it. I had a friend in, near the Sahara, right? And they were saying, yeah, the desert is expanding rapidly. Okay. Now, again, anybody can tell you, look, a lot of these climate phenomenon are always happening, are always going to happen, right? Because, there's no such thing as static Earth. No one should be under the impression that the Earth doesn't have its own natural climate change. The only thing is that absolutely, if you disrupt, or absolutely humans can disrupt the natural course of things. Okay, absolutely, humans can elevate the carbon levels, reduce the oxygen levels, can do any sort of, you can't cut down forests and trees and expect that the oxygen and carbon level are going to be consistent. And then what carbon and oxygen do, among other, I guess particles, I don't know, but among other elements, if you will, right? What they do for the for the climate, can be measured and can be predicted and does have an impact, does have an effect, and humans can do something about their environment. That stated, again, these white people, the white millionaires, billionaires, the Exxon Mobils and all that kind of stuff, they know that it's real. They are just not interested in paying for it. They are okay with you paying for it. They are okay with the loss of life for you. They are okay with food scarcity in Central Africa. They're okay with the minimizing of lakes and the disappearance of lakes and rivers and so on and so forth in Africa. They're okay with that. It's just a question of, are you okay with that? And what do you want? What do you want to do with that? And unfortunately, my brother RBG isn't here, but I think his concern that he's articulated a lot, where he says, as we discuss climate change, a lot of times we're talking about limiting ourselves from potent energy resources, potent energy generation, right? And that's a real concern too, because the West isn't stopping, and of course my brother Trigger has pointed out that if we go down that rabbit hole, we would still suffer as a people, because again, it's going to impact the global South more. It's going to impact equatorial states in the global South just much more, because that's how temperature is. That's how temperature works. But either way, it is a balance. I personally do think we should just go fully into green energy. I think it's a worthwhile pursuit. I also understand the desire to go into what they call unclean energy, I guess, right? I get that. I would, but also I think that if you look into what Africa is capable of in terms of energy generation, it's possible that green energy is actually really viable for Africa. If we really were serious as a people, we could be economically, we could have greater energy production than Western countries, and we could do it the green way. And I'll even point out this, just to finish: China has far outproduced America in terms of energy production at this point. And if I'm not mistaken, China is very well versed inside of green energy. Now, I can't say what the breakdown is, but it might possibly be that China's actually very green, on top of the fact that it's massively outproducing America. So it's very, very possible for us in Africa, but we're kind of playing games, and that's one of the issues.
Appreciate that, Oni. Cheryl in the chat says, in the video they said they are struggling to find clean water. It's polluted. Is climate change causing water pollution, or is industrialists and capitalism causing it? I think it, personally, I think it's all connected. Let's hear from Jose on this.
Yes, thank you. I'm not. It can be because of us humans, right? And be the change fast or slow. I think even the slow changes went with peaks and with even if it took like 3 million years for the water to rise 300 feet, in those 3 million years, there has been periods that it rose like 50 feet very quick and went down slow again, etc. So be it fast or not fast, it remains hard to say if us humans did it. But what I want to hammer on is, do you all remember Kyoto? In Kyoto, 1996, the world came to the conclusion that the West was the big polluter, and the West had to do something. And there was this CO2 quota that they had to reach, etc., etc. And the West did not agree, and they forced sharing emission with lower South slash third world country back in the days. And so that resulted in a lot of African countries not forbidding to import cars older than 5 years and trucks older than 10 years. So now you have cars like 60, 70-year-old Mercedes buses still driving around with those big black clouds behind them, and immigrants not being able to send cars and start businesses, send trucks and start businesses, because you practically have to buy a new car. And all those second-hand cars, they went to Eastern Europe, and they get their economical boost by it, right? And meanwhile, 96, and immediately after that conference, all those car manufacturers started to make engines way cleaner, right? But now, today, it's still difficult to export second-hand cars to certain African countries. But a car from effing 96 is an old timer today, right? And that was Kyoto. So I don't know what happened or when it was decided. Now you have emission and green, right? So the fight against CO2 emission now is to buy forest land, etc. So the United Arab Emirates are buying large portions of land in Zambia, Kenya, Tanzania, and they actually lock it. You can now you can't do nothing with it. Okay, these motherfuckers will surely go in and hunt for lions and wildlife and whatever they do on that land. But that's the new scheme. I don't know if anybody has noticed, but for the last like almost 2 years in here, online and on TV, I don't see it much, but when I visit my mother, I see those commercials, and it's all everyone is now green. Like it's something. Maybe somebody can update us. But something has happened, maybe comparable to Kyoto, where shit was decided, and suddenly everybody is fighting CO2 by investing in nature. Like Shell is doing it, of course, like, but that's one. And two is, again, back to the is it us or is it nature? Is it the sun? Is it, it can be a lot of things, but one thing is for sure. The Cape Verde Islands is a Sahel country. It's pretty dry. But lately, it's been raining a lot. And people are happy. Crops are growing. You know what I'm saying? So I think, like, okay, if the Cape Verde, yes, there are floods. Yes, the rains are heavier, for sure. And people should not have built their houses there where the rocks, like 10, 50-ton rocks used to roll by when in raining seasons. So you're not supposed to build there, So in dry seasons, or when it's a couple of years, it rains less. That doesn't mean that you can build a house there. Don't do it. But if that happens if that is happening in Cape Verde, I'm looking forward to a green Sahel. I'm sorry, I'm looking forward to a green Sahara. I've seen videos of the desert close to Mecca with green pastures, and people were shocked. Well, me too, happily shocked. Like, hey, I mean, if we see it coming, if we know that it will happen, move, prepare, like we've probably did hundreds or thousands of years ago. These cities at the coast of India, these cities at the coast of Japan, like 200, 300 feet deep. We used to live there, and we don't live there anymore. I mean, like the previous topic, move, safety, be a protector and a provider, be safe. Thanks.
Can I ask
Appreciate that.
that question? So, are you saying
go ahead.
climate? It seems like you're being skeptic of climate change is not being real. Is that your stance?
No, absolutely not. If it is happening, I mean, I told you there's more rain in the Cape Verde Islands. Look, this narrative is about sea levels. What happened to the clouds? More clouds. More water in the sea? Yes. More water in the clouds. Nobody talks about more water in the clouds.
But that's a part of climate change. So once the temperature rises, you have it disrupts the whole ecosystem.
No, if we don't talk about clouds, then we are going to talk about deserts and higher temperatures, etc. Let's not forget about the clouds.
No, that's a part of the ecosystem. You can't separate sand from the beach. That's just a part of it.
Exactly.
And so the rain that we have, you'll have, if it's warmer in certain places than others, and on Black Steel, unfortunately, it's going through this. You have more hurricane fives during hurricane season that's more frequent. Where there's rain, there's probably no rain. Where there never used to be rain, there is rain. Everything gets turned upside down because I mean, again, this is pretty much like junior high school type science, science class. Where they tell you how the food chain works, they tell you how the rain cycle works,
yes,
how hurricane works, and things like that.
Clouds, rain. Yes.
Yeah. So basically, when you have there's species in South America and in other places, if the temperature goes up 2 degrees, dead. There's frogs, snakes, lizards, all birds. There's all types of species based upon, because you got to understand we're biologically fine-tuned. Well, Homo sapiens being us, we're fine-tuned to pretty much deal with a lot. But
there's an example for that too. There's an example for that too, brother.
Exactly. Through evolution.
Before very short. I'm very short. Before the war in this Balkan country with Tito as leader, Yugoslavia. Before the war in Yugoslavia, people were trying to save a certain type of lizard, right? Its food was where this lizard came from was getting harder for it to survive. So they planted this lizard on other islands over there, right? There's thousands of islands there between Greece and Italy, and so they planted some of those lizards in the other islands, and on those islands lived a cousin of this lizard. But this cousin was a herbivore, and this lizard was a carnivore. So this lizard ate. The war broke out, and they couldn't reach that island for like 13 years. So after the war, they went to look, and they couldn't find none of the two lizards. What happened was the carnivore ate everything, like everything edible, like cockroaches and whatever it lived off. And at a certain point, it also ate its cousin. And when all the food was gone, it changed. It's changed to a herbivore. It got a bigger jaw to munch the herbs, and it got 2 extra stomachs. So yeah, let it happen. Let's see what new type of animals. How does a crocodile look when there's way more water? I think a crocodile will have the sizes of dinosaurs. And yeah, we have to prepare. We have to prepare. If we want to survive, we have to adapt. adapt.
That's a very, very good example. That lizard was able to adapt and rise above its environmental conditions, right? I mean, we're more intelligent. We should be able to know that. But the thing that mankind compared to all other species on Earth are is weaker. What makes us more of a threat is our minds and how we could perceive things and look at the natural world in a different way. We have a broader, viewpoint. We have a broader lens. So that's a good example. But again, all right, I just wanted to know if you were like denying it or whatever, because then again, my question, like I said before, would be what evidence do you have? But I know you're not denying it. I was just asking a question.
Yes, what I'm afraid of is that we're going to fight it, and that's impossible. That's the impossible part. I live here in the Netherlands, where with those dikes, and every time, all the time, it's
How
climate
is it
change.
impossible to fight climate change if we're contributing to climate change?
Yeah, but let me finish real quick and real short. So those dikes, all the time, the talk is about making them higher. But at a certain moment, the dikes, a 5-meter dike is a 50-meter wall. So when are you going to stop? So the sea is going to rise like 30 meters. The dikes ain't going to do it. It have to be walls. Then the Netherlands will be like a hole, like a pit in the sea with walls around it. That's a joke. At a certain moment, we have to give up and we have to adapt.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Bigger than us. It's bigger than us. It's bigger than
Okay,
us.
I see what you're saying. You can't fight climate change in that way, because what it is, they're pretty much, if you have an island that's like pretty much not that high above sea level, and the sea level rises, then yeah, you after a wall, yeah, you would be like a pit. You know what I'm saying? Inside the ocean, huge dikes there. So okay, that's what you're saying.
Like a vertical tube.
Yeah. Yes. Like you're a straw and you're in the middle of the straw and you're just surrounded by water. But yeah, okay. But I mean, climate change is something, that's what they're saying. Like the more we wait to do something about it, right? Because eventually it was going to take a while for the effects to happen. But the longer we wait, the longer it's going to take to bounce back. And they say maybe at a point where we may not even bounce back. So all right, okay. Go ahead, Coco. I'm finished.
Let's hear from Anthony next.
Yeah, that's an interesting conversation. Okay, first of all, I want to start right here where I'm at. Now, I live in Louisiana. Okay, now if you can look at a map of Louisiana, I'm sure all you brothers, you've seen a map of Louisiana. Okay, Louisiana today does not look like Louisiana of 30 to 40 years ago. Like our coastline, the coastline in South Louisiana. I mean, it's the reason why you have these more intense hurricanes, like you had Katrina, because it's to the global warming, the rising sea levels, or whatever, and to the disappearing coastlines. Like we had a lot, like in South Louisiana, there was a lot of islands. Like you had Grand Island, Marsh Island. You still have them, but the islands aren't as big as they used to be. And the Barataria area, the Barataria Sound, the Terrebonne Islands, all these islands, these areas adjacent off, from New Orleans, because you seen a map of New Orleans. Now how New Orleans is right there in Southeast Louisiana on Lake Pontchartrain. Okay, but now outside to the south of New Orleans, you have all these areas like I said, like the Terrebonne and Barataria and all these islands on the coast. Now, see, these islands used to represent a buffer zone for when a hurricane made landfall. But see, now, if you look at a map of it now, you can see what as a matter of fact, according to the state records, they say Louisiana loses a football field of land every year. A football field. Now that might be small in some people's mind, but every year it loses a football field of land of these small islands. Now a football field was like 100 yards, but every year, and probably now it's going up because, like I said, with like we was talking about with the rising sea level, you get in the South Pacific. You had this island, this nation of Tuvalu. He had Tuvalu. It was another one. But right now, they had a place where the prime minister's office used to be at. The prime minister's office is underwater now. You can't even see it no more. You know what I'm saying? You can't even see it no more. In the Maldives, they had that same problem in the Maldives. I was looking at a documentary about the Maldives with this guy who was one of the government officials. I think it was on PBS. It was on Nova, that show Nova. And he was saying, well, you know, the office of I don't know which office. I can't remember which office it was. So I'm just picking one just for example. Well, you know, the office of information used to be right there. And where he points to is underwater now. You know what I'm saying? It's underwater. But I had a question that I wanted to ask. It was a question for Jose. And well, first I address Oni. Like Oni was talking about China. Okay. The biggest carbon, from what they say, the biggest carbon emission, the biggest imprint on the planet, you know, from the carbon emissions and all that stuff, is in China. Now we know that China been going through a lot of stuff. You know, you go down to the east coast of China, the southeast coast of China, where all of the cities at, where a lot of the economic activity goes to. But then, you know, in the interior of China, where they're talking about how the Gobi Desert has been expanding. They talk about how the rivers have been shrinking, and they was talking about a whole lot of things that they contributed to global warming, you know, to the climate change, you know, and it's a reason why China's going everywhere else in the world. You know what I'm saying? I mean, not only just financially and economically, you know, they setting up colonies places. Because you know what I'm saying? It's getting impossible. I mean, for a land of, and it's a big country, but for a land of like 1.2, 1.3 billion people, and China is not the most arable land. It doesn't have the richest farmland. It's a big country and it can support a lot of people, but 1.2, 1.3 billion people is a whole lot on that area. You know what I'm saying? Even as big as it is, like I said, there's not a lot of arable land in China. Okay. My question for Jose, I remember, Jose, it was back in the late 80s. In the late 80s, early 90s. I remember it was two things. They had in Cape Verde, they had this thing where, you know, like you talk about, you know, we know how Cape Verde is, you know, is basically a desert in most places. I mean, it's a dry climate. You know, it's not fertile. It doesn't have a lot of plant-like vegetation.
Yes, it's a Sahel country. It's a Sahel country.
Okay, but Jose, you remember this right here? You remember they was talking about in the late 80s, early 90s about this plan, this desalinization plan, where he was talking about getting seawater and like taking the salt out of it and trying to like you know, make some of the land fertile in Cape Verde. You remember that?
Not really, and I can't imagine where that would apply, to be honest.
Yeah, but I mean, it was. I was reading about this, and I'm trying to remember the publication.
It smells like an NGO elbowing itself in.
I think it was.
Because
to
me, it makes no sense. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah. So check it out, and it's at the same time. They had this thing in Guinea-Bissau. Remember where the United States?
Guinea-Bissau is it's applicable
Yeah,
there with the mangroves. Yes.
Yeah, and check it out. You remember when the American government or American corporations and whatever had signed this deal with the government in Guinea-Bissau to relocate all that toxic waste. It was like almost $1 billion package. I think it was like $800 million.
You mean the United States dumping toxic waste in Guinea-Bissau?
Yeah. To put it in Guinea-Bissau.
They all have been doing it. And there has been an accident with hundreds of deaths and thousands of injured in.
That's what I'm leading up to.
by
that's what I believe.
a Dutch ship, and
Where
it was
messing up the water.
yes, and they would go up the river to dump it in the river, and I'm like, at least do it at the coast, but no, up the river. But yeah. It's sad.
Hey, but remember. Hey, but remember this. Remember this, Jose. It was those islands. I don't want to pronounce the name wrong, so you inform me if I'm saying it wrong. I think it was in like the Basagos. Jose, was it the Basagos, the islands off the coast of Guinea-Bissau?
Oh, I'm talking to the muted. I don't know how long I've been talking to a muted microphone.
But it was
the Guinea. Did you hear me talk about Ivory Coast and the Netherlands dumping toxic waste there?
Yeah, I heard that part, but I'm actually about this. I'm still talking about Guinea-Bissau right now.
Guinea-Bissau at the mouth of the river. There's hundreds, maybe thousands of islands. And
that's what I'm talking about.
I don't know the names.
But it's like the Biagos or Basagos. But anyway, what I'm saying, they in that part of Guinea-Bissau, they have like the sisters is a strong matriarchal thing down there. What I'm saying, and they was like leading a fight against that, against the stuff that they was trying to do, because it started affecting the ecosystem down there.
This is the first time that I hear of it, but yeah, fighting.
It's a documentary. It's a documentary on YouTube about it, about the matriarchs in Guinea-Bissau and these islands.
A little secret.
But
The fighting spirit over there pulls me over there. But anyway. It's a mess, these governments, people taking money to poison their own land and people. It's crazy. I don't know what to say about it.
But look here, Coco. I mean, for time constraints, I'm gonna knock off right there. I'll leave it right there.
Yeah, thank you for that, Anthony. When Oni was saying China going green, I was a little perplexed, because China has long been a large CO2 footprint,
People need to update. People need to update on China. People need to update on China. China is pretty ahead with the cleaning and green energy, etc. Cleaning their rivers and greening their deserts.
Yeah, they're improving the conditions, but I don't think that they might be leading in terms of effort, but they were so bad off.
Just update. Just update. Yeah. Thinking doesn't do it.
They were bad off in the past, and they're working to clean. So maybe their efforts are the largest efforts because of it, but they were in such a deficit. They have a lot to do. Anyway, with all of that said and heard, Black Steel, what say you to all of it? Black Steel might be sleeping now. Black Steel, if you're there, unmute your mic for me. All right. Is there any other last thoughts on this topic? This is the last topic for tonight anyway.
Well, all right. I did want to say, China as a mass polluter, obviously, we see what or why, we also have to remember too that China is the largest country on the planet, population wise. Actually, no, also landmass wise. But as far as what I was thinking of was how they are at this point one of the they've been producing solar panels to such a high extent that the American government was complaining that they're kind of flooding the market with pretty much cheap solar panels because they made them affordable based off of how much they mass produce. So I think China might be transitioning. Obviously, Cho says Africa is greener than China. Yeah, I mean, But I mean, the thing that's interesting about China again is the fact that it's the biggest energy producer on the planet now too, which is really impressive considering how many years it took, and of course the fact that the United States was usually the biggest energy producer. Now, I personally prefer the idea of green energy. That's interesting what Taku says. Solar panels produce toxic waste once they lose function. Oh, once they lose function. Okay. But I personally prefer the idea of green energy, in Africa because, one, you have this Inga Dam, right? The Grand Inga Dam that, if it were completed, could produce between 40 to 70 gigawatts of energy. The freak. The other thing is that obviously Africa being an equatorial country, I think that we could definitely benefit from solar energy as well. Notwithstanding the toxic byproduct, I think as far as toxic byproducts are concerned, I think that when it comes to toxic byproducts, I think that you just have to learn how to do waste disposal at that point. The same as nuclear energy is considered a really good candidate for energy independence, but obviously that one comes with toxic waste as well, and you just have to find a way to dispose of that waste. Also, of course, wind energy. I think wind energy is another interesting thing, and I think Check Out to Job had outlined, like river, like using the energy of streams and rivers. These are possibilities that people can invest in to, not only reduce the cost and reduce foreign dependence, but also help with the environment. And I think that's a really good avenue to take. I mean, obviously, there's no perfect country today. But I think, but like as far as Africa is concerned right now, right? I think if we were to like as far as uh, energy is concerned, like like this whole dependence on let's say foreign oil or foreign coal or other people producing our coal and our so on and so forth, like that's going to get us in trouble. And I say that as somebody here in Tanzania where I could lose power, not too often, but it's a possibility. I mean, it happens a couple of times, and I can tell you this: that when I go deeper into the interior of Tanzania, there are cities that power is just always out. Okay, like power is out every day, and you only get it in the evening, type of thing. Which is like really bad for remote work. Because if you're working during the day remotely, if you don't have a generator, if you don't have solar panels, if you don't have the energy output, you're screwed. So, what I think the discussion should be is how can people in Africa benefit from the resources of the planet, and the main resource in the planet for us is going to be that solar energy. Even though it's extraplanetary, it's still like one of the biggest resources that we have as a species. And that's all life on the planet really depends on the sun. So just harnessing that would be really really good.
Appreciate that thought, that Oni. That's the show for tonight.
Hey, I'm sorry. I'm back, guys. I'm back. I hadn't
All
left.
right, Black.
I'm sorry. Really quickly. So I'm not really hearing people talk about capitalism too much. So climate change is driven by capitalism, right? The most of the climate emissions are done by only a handful of companies, such as Shell Oil, BP, so on and so forth. Because these companies who are fully aware of their impact on the climate are working because they prioritize their profits over the well-being of human civilization, of human life. So you have situations where they'll cut down the forests. They'll mine materials in the most ecologically damaging way possible. So it's well known that what's happening is causing these climate emergencies across the world. This is not something that unknown, right? Many people are saying, "Oh, the hurricanes are getting stronger. Oh, the water's getting warmer." Uh, we're s- it goes even down to the insect life. We're starting to see insect populations across the world decrease by 75, 80%, right? When the insects go, then the birds go. Then, you have the insects will pollinate the crops, because of all the pesticides and herbicides being sprayed on the grass. It's leading to damaging, life altering effects. And you can't have infinite growth on a finite planet. And capitalism requires infinite growth. In order for a business to be successful, for the shareholders to get their benefit, the company has to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. You can't have infinite growth on a planet whose resources are finite. And the idea that these a forest, for example, an ocean, a sea, these are only commodities to be exploited for the benefit of the capitalists. So the forest itself has no value until you cut it down and then you turn it into furniture or you turn it into housing. The ocean has no benefit unless you could extract fish from it or you could dump your waste into it. Um, so this is something that I think if the planet is to survive, we're going to have to do away with the very ideals of capitalism, which exists only to turn human beings, nature itself, into commodities to be exploited and to enrich only a handful of people. And we're seeing that now, even with these storms, because people, like I said, I've been through two hurricanes in 2 weeks. First one wasn't so bad. The second was my whole house was shaking, right? And people are saying, "Oh, they're changing the weather and they're doing this and doing that." Everybody wants to blame everything, but the reality of, hey, listen, these storms are so big because first of all, um, the ocean is warmer, right? Warm water makes hurricanes more powerful. When you have the Gulf of Mexico sitting at 80, 90 degrees on the surface, what do you think is going to happen? There's no weapon that should be used to harness uh the weather. When you got the Caribbean sitting at the highest temperature you've ever seen, you have mass die off of coral reefs. You have, somebody mentioned like amphibians are what they call the canary in the coal mine. They feel the effects of climate change sooner than anybody. You have frogs and toads and salamanders all across the world, numbers dropping exponentially, going extinct. This is something that is, again, moved by climate change. And countries like Nigeria, where almost 96% of forest cover is gone, Ghana, you have Shell in the Niger Delta just polluting with no concern of cleaning up anything. It's to the point where people can't even live there anymore. It, I think that because these are being fueled by capitalism, right? And it's unsustainability. And the fact that these billionaires, these millionaires, they're prepared to go into space as Elon Musk, or find some, mountain cavern they can live underground and just let the rest of us die. They're fully prepared to do that because at the end of the day, all that matters is their profit, and they'll watch the rest of the world get destroyed to enrich themselves. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
I'll just add that Cheryl in the chat, Cheryl did mention capitalism early on, and I responded to her. I actually said that they are connected. I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's connected. I think Black Steel just summed it up really nicely, the connection. So I think it's a real thing, and I think it's, me personally, I think it's a real thing. Climate change is. I think it's spurned on by capitalistic practices. Since Black Steel came back and spoke his piece, is there any thoughts to what Black Steel had to say?
Yeah, Coco. Hey, okay, yeah, thank you, Coco. I mean, global warming is real. You know what I'm saying? Climate change is real. And I agree with Black Steel. Yes, capitalism has a lot to do with it, 100% to do with it. Well, I mean, I think it's also that it is because it has happened before that too, though. You know what I'm saying? It has happened before that. I mean, we've had global warming before that. Like, I mean, and I'm not denying that. I'm 100%. I'm 100% with you, brother, and all you brothers. That global warming and climate change is a real thing, and that the planet is in danger, and that it is feared right now in the present time by this capitalist shit, by business and corporations. I agree 100%. All I'm just saying is, but before it was all of this here, it also happened back then. You know what I'm saying? Hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, it also happened then. I mean, and I think that it's a combination of both of them. I think it's a combination of way things happen naturally. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's been exacerbated by capitalism. You know, about modern man, about what white folks do. I think it's been exacerbated. It's been exacerbated by them. But I was saying, Black Steel, you was talking about them damn insects. I wish you come up here and tell my insects and mosquitoes something. But these mosquitoes is biting the shit out of us up here in Louisiana. They ain't never stopped. I mean, look here, they have increased. The mosquitoes have increased. I got a big old bumblebee nest right here on the side of under my carport. The bumblebees have came back. Now, you know, a few years ago, you didn't see no bees. You wonder where all the bees went. The yellow jackets, the bumblebees, all of them. Man, guess what? We got plenty of them now. We got plenty of bumblebees. We got too many goddamn mosquitoes. You know what I'm saying? And damn, we just had mating season not too long ago with the frogs. I mean, where the hell all these goddamn frogs came from? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know how they got that stuff mixed up, but I guess things work different down here. You know what I'm saying? In Louisiana. Because I mean, we've been having a plague full of this shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how it go nowhere else, but we've been having a plague full of it, man. And I mean, and I know that it has something to do with like the stuff that they spray. Because see, they used to spray stuff to kill the insects. So they had a little thing down there where in the Louisiana state government, where you know they stopped doing that. They stopped spraying certain stuff, you know, some of these chemicals and all this stuff. And then you know, it brought back the butterflies, it brought back the bees, it brought back a whole bunch of stuff. But see, we get to the point now with these mosquitoes getting out of control. See, we got a thing down here that they call West Nile disease. I don't know if you brothers had heard of that before.
Yeah, we got it down here too.
And it's a disease. Yeah, and where these damn mosquitoes be spreading this shit, man. A lot of people get sick from this shit. I mean, look here, man. I told Coco, I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana right now today. Do you know on October, whatever the day of the 10th, the 11th or 12th, it was 94 degrees. Man, I'm 57. It ain't never been this hot in October. It was 94 degrees. I was sitting on the porch. It was 94 degrees. And mosquitoes was tearing my black ass up. You know what I'm saying? Mosquitoes used to disappear like in September. No, you go outside now, man. Any portable water is a breeding ground for them. So yeah, man, you know, I think it's, like I'm saying, I agree with you. It's a combination of the bullshit that they do, but I think it's also a combination of nature, and probably, you know, and both of them coming together, and you know, shit get mixed up. That's why they shit get mixed up, because it's natural occurrences, but it's also them putting their hand in shit. I think, you know, where they trying to manufacture weather, or rather they doing all of the other stuff that's affecting everything. Like you say, affecting the plant life, the fauna life, and all of this stuff. You know, I'm not off right there, man. I ain't want to ramble too much. I just wanted to throw that in real quick.
Let's get right into our shout outs for the week. Let's start with Anthony. Anthony, what would you like to shout out this week?
Man, I just want to shout out all the brothers and sisters, man, you know, who are on the panel and in the chat, man. You know, big respect to all y'all, man. Let's normalize respecting each other. Hey, man, I respect you, Black Steel. I respect you, Buana. I respect you, Kofi. I respect you, everybody, man. Koku, you know what I'm saying? I respect y'all. Big love for y'all, man. And I guess happy Independence Day to Guinea-Bissau. It was their Independence Day today. I don't know how independent they are, but they still under the same old fucked up ass dude. But happy Independence Day today. I mean, not Guinea-Bissau, Equatorial Guinea.
Appreciate you, Anthony. Thanks for coming through and thanks for your input tonight. I give you a shout out tonight. Let's hear from Oni. Oni, what would you like to shout out this week?
Well, I guess I'll just shout out Black Steel for weathering the storm. You know, because that sucks. But you know, fortunately, he survived and kept his family safe, and so that's you know, that's some good stuff. So shout out to that brother. I think it's also a slow news day, so I got nothing in the news except for, you know, of course, the Sahel states. They're always, you know, on my mind. Big up to them. But other than that, you know, shout out to and of course shout out to everybody else. But you know, shout out to everybody who went through the storm. That's for sure. That's it.
Appreciate that, Oni. Let's hear from Jose. Jose, what would you like to shout out this week?
Shout out to all Black people. Shout out to all Black people, and in particular those that you know, humans have always been preppers. We have always been preparing for like 50 years, 3 generations. So shout out, especially like all Black people, but especially the people that remained preppers and thinking about where am I / my bloodline in 50 or 100 years from now. Shout out to all of y'all.
Appreciate that, Jose. Kofi, would you like to shout out this week?
I would like to shout out to you, Koku, for putting this together every week. It was a very good show. I enjoyed the topic. Thank you again for helping putting together the show yesterday. Thank you, Black Steel. Thank you, Brother Bakari. If you're in the chat, thank you. But especially thank you, Black Steel, brother. I'm sorry if I was pretty much weren't considering what you were going through. I just thought you were available, which makes me appreciate you even more. You came through on that podcast and you represent yourself very well, and to the point where other brothers, they wanted to link with you. And I think Koku's saying you need to get your own channel, brother, because you have a lot of good insight to offer. So I really do appreciate you. Shout out to Anthony, Jose, the whole panel, and everybody in the chat for making this a very good show as usual.
And last but not least, I guess Black Steel, what would you like to shout out this week?
Well, thank you so much for that, Kofi, and you know, Oni, and for thinking out, you know, thinking about my family and everything. It's been rough, man. So, you know, I'm gonna shout out those linemen who got my power back on, man, because they're estimating that it's gonna be at least till next Thursday for the rest of my area to get the power back on. But, you know, like I said, there have been fist fights at the gas station. People have been begging for help, and I want to shout out the community who got together, who came together, you know, as especially the Black people out here. You know, we kind of saw people in need and we helped each other out. So somebody said, "Hey, I had my grill out here, you know, because the food was going bad, so I got the grill. You know, we cooked for the community. Everybody had something to eat who didn't have power." And I think that the community is what we're going to have to lean on. Black people, all we got is each other. All we got is us. There's nobody else coming to help us or save us. I think that within that community lies our salvation. So thanks again for a great show.
All right. Thank all of you. I hope everything works out for the best for you and everyone around you, Black Steel. In the meantime, we'll be back next week. You guys be good. Oh, by the way, join the Discord. If you're not on the Discord, click the link, join the Discord so you can post your topics, because I noticed that we kind of dwindling with topics these days. Join the Discord, post your topics, add a link to YouTube or Twitter or something, so that it could be an interesting conversation. And until then, you guys be good. Peace.
Later, brothers.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.